Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Professional English. Today I'm going to talk about something which is very important.
Can you speak English fluently in 5 months? Spoiler alert, yes, you absolutely can. And today I'll show you exactly how to achieve this, step by step. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand what fluency really means, how to achieve it, and how to maximize both your learning time and the quality of your practice. We'll also cover some common myths about learning languages and break down the most effective methods to help you succeed. What does it mean to be fluent? Before we talk about how to get fluent in English, let's take a moment to define what fluency actually means. Many people misunderstand the term and think that being fluent means you speak a language perfectly like a native speaker. But that's not necessarily true. In fact, fluency doesn't mean you have to speak English perfectly. Fluency simply means that you can communicate effectively and naturally without too much hesitation. Imagine water flowing smoothly down a river. That's what fluency in a language feels like. Your words come out naturally, and you don't have to stop and think too much before speaking. To be more specific, fluency in English means smooth and easy communication. You can speak in a way that flows naturally. You feel confident. You feel comfortable expressing your thoughts even if you make mistakes. Conversation ready. You can hold a regular conversation about everyday topics like talking about your day, asking for directions, or discussing your hobbies. It's important to note that fluency is not the same as native-level perfection. Even native speakers make mistakes from time to time. The key to fluency is communication. If you can communicate your thoughts clearly and understand others, you're fluent. Even if you don't know every single word in the dictionary or if you make small grammar mistakes, that's okay. We're not aiming for perfection here. We're aiming for natural, effective communication. The concept of fluency in 5 months. Now that we know what fluency is, let's talk about how you can become fluent in 5 months. You might be wondering, is that really possible? The answer is yes, but it requires focus, commitment, and the right approach. First, let's clear up a common misconception. Time alone doesn't determine how fast you learn a language. It's not just about how many months or years you spend learning, but how effectively you use that time. Someone who studies for 2 hours every day for 5 months can achieve fluency faster than someone who only practices once a week for 5 years. It's about quality and quantity. You need to combine the two for the best results. Quantity. How much time should you invest? To achieve fluency in 5 months, you'll need to invest a significant amount of time into learning and practicing English. But how much time exactly? A general rule of thumb is about 600 hours of focused, effective practice. That may sound like a lot, but let's break it down. 600 hours over 5 months equals roughly 20 hours per week, or out to 4 hours per day. If you're serious about learning English quickly, you'll need to commit to practicing every day. Now you might be thinking, 3 to 4 hours a day sounds overwhelming. But don't worry, this doesn't mean you have to sit at a desk studying grammar for 4 hours straight. In fact, that would be a bad idea. You can split your practice into smaller chunks throughout the day. For example, spend 1 hour in the morning listening to an English podcast while you have breakfast. Use 30 minutes during lunch to review vocabulary or read an article in English. Watch a 45-minute English TV show or YouTube video in the evening, focusing on understanding the dialogue. Spend another 45 minutes practicing speaking by repeating phrases or having conversations with yourself, friends, or an online language partner. By breaking it up, you make it more manageable and can fit language learning into your everyday routine. Quality. How should you spend your learning time? While the number of hours you spend learning is important, the quality of those hours is even more crucial. You could spend 5 hours a day passively listening to English with no focus. Or you could spend just one focused and engaged hour practicing specific skills, and the latter will give you better results. So how do you maximize the quality of your learning? Through focused practice. Don't just passively listen to English. Pay attention. Actively try to understand what's being said, observe how sentences are structured, and repeat key phrases out loud. Second, comprehensible input. Make sure the material you're studying is at the right level for you. It should be challenging enough to push you, but not so difficult that you feel lost. If you're watching a TV show or reading an article where you only understand 10% of the words, it's too difficult. Aim for understanding around 80%. This will help you learn without getting discouraged. Third, speaking practice. You must practice speaking if you want to become fluent. Reading and listening are important, but speaking is the only way to develop fluency. Find a language partner or tutor to practice with, or even talk to yourself. Practicing speaking out loud will help you build the confidence and muscle memory needed to speak naturally. First, emotional engagement. The more you enjoy the process, the faster you'll learn. Choose topics that interest you and find ways to make learning fun. Watch movies you love in English, read about your hobbies, or listen to English music. You don't need a huge vocabulary to be fluent. One of the biggest myths about fluency is that you need to know thousands and thousands of words to be fluent. In reality, you only need around 4,000 common words. I'm to hold everyday conversations in English. Think about it. In daily life, we mostly talk about common everyday topics like the weather, food, work, family, and hobbies. You don't need to know advanced vocabulary like metamorphosis or subatomic to have a normal conversation. A smaller, more focused vocabulary is much more effective than trying to memorize thousands of words you'll rarely use. Start by mastering the most commonly used words and phrases in English. You can gradually expand your vocabulary as you go. But if you want to get fluent in 5 months, focus on learning words that will help you communicate right away. The power of listening. Train your ear to understand English. Listening is one of the most powerful tools for learning any language. When you listen to English, you're not just learning vocabulary. You're also training your ear to understand the natural rhythm, intonation, and flow of the language. This is critical for fluency. Spend as much time as you can listening to English. You can listen to podcasts, audiobooks, YouTube videos, TV shows or movies, music with lyrics. The more you listen, the more you'll start to pick up on how native speakers connect their words, which will help you improve your own speaking skills. But remember, passive listening is not enough. You need to actively listen. Pay attention to how words are pronounced, how sentences are structured, and how native speakers express themselves in different situations. Speaking with confidence. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. One of the biggest barriers to fluency is the fear of making mistakes. Many learners are afraid to speak because they don't want to sound silly or say the wrong thing. But here's the truth. Mistakes are a necessary part of learning. In fact, the more mistakes you make, the faster you'll improve. When babies learn to speak, they make tons of mistakes. They say words wrong. They mix up grammar, and they mispronounce things, but they keep trying, and eventually they become fluent. You need to adopt the same mindset. Don't be afraid to speak, even if you're not 100% confident in your grammar or pronunciation. Remember, fluency is not perfection. Fluency means being able to communicate effectively, even if you make mistakes. As long as people understand what you're trying to say, you're on the right track. To help you build confidence, start by practicing in a low-pressure environment. Talk to yourself in English at home, practice with a friend, or use language apps where you can speak with people from all over the world. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become. Repetition is key. Train like a champion. Think of language learning like training for a sport. If you want to become a champion athlete, you have to practice regularly and with intensity. The same goes for learning English. When athletes train, they don't just try a new skill once and move on. They practice it over and over again until it becomes second nature. You should approach language learning the same way, repeatedly until it becomes a natural part of your vocabulary. This is called spaced repetition, and it's one of the most effective ways to remember new information. Here's how you can use repetition in your daily English practice. Firstly, review vocabulary regularly. Every day, review the words and phrases you learned the day before. Use flashcards, apps like Anki or Quizlet, or simply write them down in a notebook and go over them at different times of the day. Secondly, use new words in sentences. As soon as you learn a new word, use it in a sentence. Try creating different sentences with the same word throughout the day. For example, if you learn the word opportunity, try saying things like, "This is a great opportunity to learn English." "I had the opportunity to meet new people today." "There's an opportunity to practice English in this conversation." Thirdly, practice speaking out loud. Don't just think. The sentences in your head, say them out loud. This helps you get used to the sound of your own voice speaking English and builds your confidence. The more you practice speaking, the smoother and more natural it will feel. Revisit old lessons. As you continue learning, go back to previous lessons and review them. Language learning is not a straight line. You need to revisit material multiple times to truly master it. Remember, repetition isn't boring. It's how we train our brains to absorb and retain new information. The more you repeat a word or phrase, the more easily it will come to mind when you need it. Immerse yourself in English. Surround yourself with the language. Immersion is one of the best ways to learn a new language quickly. When you immerse yourself in English, you force your brain to constantly engage with the language, which speeds up the learning process You don't need to move to an English-speaking country to immerse yourself in. When you learn a new word or phrase, don't just look it up once and move on. Use it. By surrounding yourself with English as much as possible, here are some practical ways to immerse yourself in English no matter where you live. Change your environment to English. Set your phone and computer to English. This is a small